As part of our Coastal Magic featured author presentations this year, I'm excited to welcome Hank Edwards to the podcast. Hank's been writing gay fiction for more than 20 years, crossing many subgenres along the way, including romantic comedy, contemporary paranormal, suspense, mystery, and wacky comedy. He's released 2 books this summer, Horror at Hideaway Cove, which is book 6 in the Critter Catchers series, and Vancouver Nights, which is the 3rd in the Fluffers, Inc. series. Welcome, Hank.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's good to finally have you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start with that most recent release, which happens to be a re-release of Vancouver Nights.
Yes. It's book 3 of my Charlie Hegginsford series, and it was the first books that I published. And they're very filthy and they're very funny. So
it's hard to go wrong with filthy and funny.
It really is. I get some different feedback from people depending on what they're looking for. It's the 3rd book. I just got the rights back last year, and so I've been kind of re-editing them, and I wanted to add some more to the first book. So I added probably about 4 chapters to the first book as an intro to Charlie, the main character. He moves to Los Angeles from Idaho, a farm in Idaho, and I wanted to show his life back on the farm. So I added about 4 chapters there, like before he gets his job at Fluffers, Inc., which is, where he works and excels. Some may say. And so then the 3rd book, I finally got around to just going through and giving a nice edit. And so I've put that up for pre-order now. And actually, it's probably available when this goes live. So I think the end of August.
Yep. And as you mentioned, Fluffers, Inc. was your first book, and this is from back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
As you got your rights back, what inspired you to get everything kind of updated and repackaged to come out?
I really, I've got it's kind of fun. I've got a soft spot for Charlie. A lot of people have a hard spot for Charlie, but I have a soft spot for Charlie, because he's a fun character to write. And he is very clumsy, but he's got a good heart. And it's just fun. And, it's not an angsty book. There's not really a lot of drama, but it's a lot of fun. And I wanted to kind of bring him back and kind of, dust off the dust and, make it a nice new cover. My husband created new covers for all the books. And, I just wanted to kind of go back and reintroduce where he came from. So, yeah, it was nice to get that back and want to clean some stuff up.
What had inspired you back in the day to write these books and to have that be your first book that came out?
Well, back when I wrote them, I was writing, it was, really the beginnings of the internet, and a lot of it was submitting short stories to magazines, things like Bear, 100% Beef, that kind of stuff. So I was writing erotic short stories, and I had the idea of creating a linked short stories that I could sell to a magazine. So, as I was writing and I wanted to be funny because I thought, anything other than sex sells, but humor sells too. So then my husband suggested, why don't you make that a book? And I was like, oh, well, that's a good idea. So, as I wrote all these short stories, I grouped them together as chapters, and they did have a common link going through them, a storyline, because I was trying to link them all anyway. And so I sent them in to Allison, and they bought it.
Oh, I remember Allison.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. It feels like, it's only 2000s, but still.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So Allison bought them, and then wanted the second one, but then the first one it wasn't selling as well as they'd wanted, so they stopped production on the second one, and then they let the first one go out of print. I think it was 5 years, and then Steve Berman from Lethe Press picked it up, and so it was really, I'm always grateful to him for that, because I was just kind of, I'm never gonna write, I'm never be more published, so he helped me kind of kick that back into gear. He bought the first one, and then he bought the next 2 to publish them. So that was cool.
What was it like revisiting these early works, and how would you say that your writing has changed over time?
Oh dear. I've become a better writer. At least I really think I did. It was, it was very, and I tried to clean all that up. It was very, um, specific about details, like the acts and things like that. So, I was writing for a whole different audience in a way in my head, back then, because it was for Bear magazine, 100% beef, that kind of stuff. So, it was, I wanted to rewrite it and make it a little more accessible and make it just better. So, but my writing has improved. I hope. So yeah, so it was very interesting going back and revisiting those. And I'd forgotten a lot about I actually made myself laugh, which is good. I guess that's okay to say.
Yeah.
When you forget what you write and you write it and you read it again and you're like, oh. So.
And you put these out on audio now too, right?
Steve actually did that. Steve Berman for Lethe. He put the first two out on audio. And he didn't tell me about it. He just kind of like suddenly sent me this link, and I was like, "What is this?" And I went out there and was like, "My book's in audio." I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's kind of cool." So I've left those out there because they every now and then somebody will want an audiobook of it, but they're not the same versions as the new releases. So it's the old version, but
okay, people can compare and contrast on their own then.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Do you see more Fluffers in your future ever?
I do. As I was revamping these books, I'd made notes for further adventures for Charlie and his friends, and so I do have some ideas for going forward. It's just trying to fit that into the schedule and see where that falls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, moving up to something more current in your releases, you have new critter catchers out there with Horror at Hideaway Cove. Tell us about that. It sounds like a juicy summer read.
It really is. It's the 6th book in the series. I have one more planned after this at some point. I have to write it. No release date for that yet, but there will be at least one more in the series. I'm kind of going to cap it probably after that. But this one kind of sees the relationship between Cody and Demetrius, the two main characters, sort of, become fully realized. They get married, they go off on a honeymoon, and they go to this nice little private island that's got one little cabin on it in the middle of this really big lake, and of course get tangled up with a lake monster. So, which is like Nessie here, on my T-shirt. So, so it's very that was kind of fun exploring that dynamic between them, while also them figuring out the mystery around the lake monster. So
that's cool. Now, tell us about critter catchers in general. What's the series about as a whole?
It's it started as a story orgy story, which was a group of us. I think there was 5 of us. Wrote prompt-based stories, and we would publish a chapter every Monday. And so we all used the same prompt, and then we'd write different stories based on it. So I had some. The first book, Terror by Moonlight, was born out of that, and I think the second book as well, Chasing the Chupacabra. And I really love. I'm drawn to paranormal stuff, and I really love humor as well. So I wanted to combine those two and mash them up, and then. I wanted to kind of have this dynamic of two best friends working together and then getting involved in these crazy, outlandish paranormal cases and not knowing what to do with them. So they kind of, it's sort of just taking on a life of its own. I just, Cody and Demetrius just sort of do things now without in my head. And I'm like, well, all right, guys, hang on, let me write it down. So it's weird.
Paranormal and comedy. It just... In some ways, it seems to go together so well because of you see the popularity of Supernatural,
right?
And the banter between those two, right?
Yep.
And then the titles to these books, it's so Saturday morning serial at the same time.
Yes, and that's exactly right. I wanted that all the dramatic serial. It's a perfect example. And yes, Supernatural. I actually in one of the books, they talk about comparing themselves to Sam and Dean quite a bit. It's no, we're not getting in the car and driving off to a crossroads to summon a demon. We're not going to do that.
There are some things you just shouldn't do, and that would be one of them.
Haven't you learned? Yeah.
So what got you started on your journey as a writer?
Oh, I've always loved writing, and I know you hear that a lot. I listen to your guys' podcasts. I know I like so many writers say that, but I grew up writing. I also drew comic strips when I was younger. I actually I actually created like comic strip border frames, like templates. And I would got them copied back in the day when there was like a big Xerox machine. And I would draw comic books about different things. But a lot of how I started writing was, I would see a movie that I loved, and I would write a sequel to it. Using those same characters, and so that's kind of how I got into it. And from there, I branched off into like my own stories. So.
What were some of those movies that you wrote sequels for?
Oh gosh, like Alien, the original Alien. I wrote my own sequel to Aliens, not Aliens, but I wrote my own sequel to Alien, where she like actually makes it back, and there's an alien on board, like a international space station kind of thing. So yeah, and I would type it up on my sister's typewriter. I used up all their ribbon; they hated it, and I made them into little books. I actually folded the paper and stuff like it was. Yeah, I was very creative.
And very thorough. Like if you were typing on a way that you could actually
Yeah.
fold them and bind
Yeah.
them.
Sometimes I would like tear them and then tape them back together to make it easier to put them in the typewriter. So it depended. I had a lot of time. We only had 3 channels, and we didn't have internet. And
It's interesting to hear how you wrote sequels to your own movies, because in a way you were doing fanfic.
right.
At the
I
end of the
started
day, I mean, and
about the
that's
internet.
the gateway for so many.
Yep, you're right. I never thought of it that way. That's a good point. So yeah, I was doing that all back in the day.
On the typewriter, I just love that.
Oh,
Who are some of your author influences? And you could really go in or out of the genre here, depending on how
Yeah.
you how you need to answer.
So out of the genre, which are big influences, is Stephen King is a huge influence, and I've read like all his stuff. I love him. Um, there's some other like mystery writers. I read a lot of Jonathan Kellerman. I read like John Sanford. I really love the mysteries and the kind of like the detective and the sort of like almost a hard boiled kind of thing. Um, in the genre, I've really come to appreciate T.J. Klune's abilities as a writer, and I just finished Angel Martinez, her Offbeat Crimes series, which was funny and paranormal and spooky and sweet. And I'm just getting into, I just discovered, and I know it's been out there a while, Jordan Castillo Price's Psychop series, which is really awesome. So, I try to bounce around a little bit and read all different sorts of stuff. But yeah, so.
Well, it makes sense you bounce around. You bounce around a lot of genres.
I do, yeah. And,
Which I get. How did you end up kind of just going from here to there? Because you started, with the comedy, and then you kind of branched from there.
yeah, it depends on what's holding my interest today. I think, it's like, where do I want to go, and how it's like the spooky stuff always kind of pulls me in. I wrote a series, Venom Valley, several years ago, and that was I wanted old school vampires. So that was more like based on like Stephen King's Salem's Lot, right? I wanted the old scary like Universal Studios vampires back, and so there's zombies and vampires in the American Old West, and I don't know where that came from. It just sort of came up and it all mashed together. So yeah, I do a lot of different stuff like that. I try to make it unique.
What would you say the trademark of a Hank Edwards book is, regardless of the genre that it's in?
I try to have the characters. I try to have a lot of like their banter. Like with me and my friends, we banter a lot back and forth, and I try to have that feel realistic, like characters that really interact together, and I really am drawn to the characters driving the plot forward, right? And so it's more, to me, it's more about the people that you're reading about. So I try to keep that top of mind, no matter what's going on. Like even if there's like vampires and zombies taking over, it's like these characters are the ones that you're there for. So I hope I do it. I don't know.
Are there subgenres that you want to try that you haven't yet?
Oh, um, I I would like to do some more contemporary, um, and some more just romance. It's just like the like romance part of it without the paranormal part. Without other stuff coming in. Just do a romance. So I need to. I'm reading up a little bit more on that, kind of like seeing how other people do it. So that's on my list this year to kind of figure out how to make Hank Edwards write that way. Like I gotta put the spooky stuff away, and then I gotta okay, it's contemporary. No, there's not a werewolf. Stop it. No, there's not a haunted house. Get away from here.
They're
So
not
yeah,
running away from something or having to kill a zombie. They just get to fall in love
exactly. How
and
does
maybe have a normal
exactly?
issue.
Yeah, right. So I've done that in the past. I need to work on that a little bit. I have some story orgy singles from back in the day that are contemporary romances. I want to get back to that a little bit.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you pull towards any one genre? Like when you're sitting there and go, I'm going to do a new book. Do you pull towards one particular genre and have to like pull yourself back somewhere else?
Yeah, I usually go to paranormal. I am, and I don't know why. Always love the things that are spooky and creepy. So, and I think it's just because they're spooky and creepy, and you have no power over them and stuff like that, and you're just like, I have to understand it. I have to be prepared. I don't know. So,
No,
yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, you described obviously that some of those first stories was your sequel to Alien, so
Hmm.
there is
Right?
a
Yeah.
connection back there.
Oh, yeah. It's from way back.
Now you are going to Coastal Magic in February. It's your
Absolutely.
second time to
Yes.
come. What are you looking forward to this year?
Oh, wow. Talking to more people. Last year I said there were more people that I knew more people than I thought I would. And I actually got to sit and talk to some authors that I had not had a chance to before. And it was really nice. I'd like to do that again. And participate even more with the off hours kind of events. So it was a really fun experience. I really enjoyed it. So I'm really happy to be going back.
Excellent. Any tips for any of our listeners who may be going for the first time,
Ooh,
such as us?
that's right. You guys, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys down there. You know what? Just so I there was a group. When I went down. I was kind of by myself, and they had like a greet and meet. And so it's hard to as you go in by yourself. It's hard to like go up and talk to people. And a woman from a group came over and invited me to join their group, and I met like these three people that were really nice, and then one of the authors, Shayla Patel. She and I kind of like hung out a little bit throughout the weekend. So it was nice. Just go try to put those fears aside and like go and talk to people. Or if you're with a group, invite somebody who's by themselves in. That just kind of helps. And I try to do that. Like when I go to JRL, I see somebody by themselves. I try to include them with what we're doing, that kind of thing. So, you know, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's a good universal tip, I think, for a con.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring people over and don't be afraid to approach.
Right.
What's coming up for you? You've got these two books that are just out this summer, but what's coming up for you between like now and Coastal?
Oh, geez. I actually have taken a step outside my boundaries, and I've co-authored a book. And I co-wrote a book with Deanna Wadsworth, who is awesome and a lot of fun to work with, and an amazing writer. And we, got on the Google Docs, and we created this. We wrote this book. It's a humorous mystery series set in an imaginary town in Western Michigan, and it's a hairstylist and a mortician that meet up and go on to solve a crime. So,
What a great combo!
they do. Yeah. So we have the first book done. We submitted it to Carina Press during their tweet to tweet to get a read, and they wanted to read it, so they read it, and we got rejected from Karina. So, but we're considering where to send it next, and then we've talked about, we have ideas for books 2 and 3 in the series, and then so we need to start working on book 2. So, but hopefully, those will be coming out at some point within the next year, probably, knowing release cycles. And then I have the 7th book of Critter Catchers to write. And then I have a couple of other things I've put to the side that I want to go back to. So, yeah.
That's cool. How was the co-writing experience, since it was new for you?
It was interesting, and it was humbling, which is very interesting, because everybody has their different methods of writing. And Deanna writes, she puts down a bunch of words a day. She does a lot of dictation, which I think you're getting into now too.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't yet figured out a good way to do that. So she's like, yeah, I got 10,000 words done today. I'm like, what? Oh my God, I'm like, I got 2,000, whatever, but it was interesting to see another process, another author in the process. And, somebody, I like Deanna. We've known each other for years, and we get along really well. And so that was a really good experience. So, yeah, it was interesting to see that from a different point of view.
That's cool. We'll look forward to seeing that and seeing what this mystery comedy kind of looks like.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Now, you've got a giveaway for our listeners, which is awesome. Please tell us what's up for grabs here.
I am going to give away the first book of the Critter Catchers series. It is on sale right now for 99 cents, but I would like to give it away. Oh, we can't do that because of licensing. Anyway.
Yeah, luckily you didn't make it sound too much like that song, so nobody will ever know that happened.
I think I'm a really bad singer. So in ebook format, so whatever format the reader needs, I have EPUB, Mobi, it could be PDF. So we will be giving away the Terror by Moonlight. And if somebody already has Terror by Moonlight and they win, then, I will be open to giving away another book in the series. So, I'm flexible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, all that people will have to do to win that is to send us an email at giveaway@biggayfictionpodcast.com. Put the word critters in the subject line, and they will be entered to win. And we'll give away we'll talk about all the ins and outs of the giveaway after the interview. So very cool about that. What's the best way for people to keep up with you online?
Oh, the best way is Facebook. I'm old, I'm older. It's like Facebook. Twitter confuses me. I get lost in the conversations. I'm like, what? Where's this going? I am on Instagram, but I always forget that I'm on Instagram, and I post a picture now and then. I'm like, I have Instagram. I should post this picture. So Facebook is probably the best way. I have a Facebook page, my author page, and that's facebook.com/Hank Edwards Books. And you can friend me. I post mostly on my profile a lot, and that's just Hank Edwards. Look for me. And Twitter, I'm at Hank's Books. And again, Twitter confuses me, so I'll post now and then, but it's, I'm not on there a lot. So I can't remember what Instagram is. I'm on Instagram, but I don't even remember what my handle is. So, but I'm out there. So follow me, and you'll see an occasional sunset or a cat picture or something. Yeah.
We'll link to everything in the show notes so people can find all that and do it that way. Hank, thanks so much for hanging out with us for a bit. We look forward to seeing you at both GRL and Coastal Magic.
Yes, thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys too.